Scott Bennett, a former officer. An increasing number of Americans are finally beginning to realize what's been happening here in Donbass for the last 10 years. More and more of them are coming here to Donetsk and Luhansk and other areas to see with their own eyes what's going on. This is Scott Bennett, a former U.S. Army officer, now a political analyst. He expressed this going through market here was given the opportunities. He has spoken to Scott to find out his goal being here in Donbass. This is what he said. Most of the population in the United States of America or in Great Britain are completely deaf to what's been happening here in Donbass for the last 10 years.
Absolutely.
Tell me why that is, and people jump on any type of a bandwagon as long as it's fashionable. Why hasn't the suffering of the people and children here in Donbass the last 10 years hasn't been fashionable to anyone?
The mainstream media in America is completely corrupt. No one sees a whisper of this except for when they watch RT or Press TV or Sputnik. So they don't know what's going on. And as I said, when I came to Donetsk, I felt like that townspeople that went and saw the crimes of the Nazi regime, I felt the same way going around and seeing the bullet-riddled buildings and the crumbled glass, and I thought, all of this is being done with American military weaponry and money, and it's a complete tragedy. It's because of the military-industrial complex. Billions of dollars are made from war, and it's put into the pockets of traitors like Lindsey Graham and Republicans and Democrats like Mitch McConnell, and these fools who say things like, Russians are dying, it's the best money we ever spent, says Lindsey Graham. He's a liar and a fool. No American wants that. When people like Adam Schiff say, we're fighting Russians over there so we don't have to fight them here. It's completely nonsense. No Americans want to fight Russia. In fact, Americans have a kinship and an affection for Russians because they're so similar in temperament and culture, family values, natural law, religion. That's the heart of America, not what we currently see in the civil war that's brewing. So I think we're on the verge of a great awakening, and I think the smartest Americans know that Russia is an ally, not an enemy. And I think everything is going to change over the next couple years. And I'm just impressed with the Russian strength of character to show the world there's a reason Russians fight like Russians. They don't give up, they don't retreat. So it's an honor to be here with them. I'm Scott. I'm a former Army officer of the United States, and I'm here to hear your story, to take back to the American people. I was hoping you would share with me your experience. May I ask you first to show me some of your tattoos, if you don't mind? I see. Did you ever meet with Americans or Britons or anyone of NATO persuasion?
Так точно, да, встречался. В этом году К нам приезжали инструктора и были люди, которые приехали, подписались по уговору и сражались вместе с нами.
So, as an American officer, as a conservative, I want peace and stability to come. And I know it has to only come through Ukrainians and Americans like me meeting with Russians to say, let us all settle this. But there are some out there in the military of Ukraine and the political ranks that need to hear from people like you. So I want you to look into that camera and say what the Ukrainian people need to know, what they need to do to stop this conflict and turn the page into a positive way.
Okay, I see. I want to say a few words to American people, and I want to say a few words to American president. I always believe that people democracy is the only one way, the only true way for best negotiations between different countries. And we spoke today about the resultative and decisions of find peace and peaceful relations. And I believe that the war isn't the right way for Ukraine. It will not give the development for Ukrainian people and for Ukraine as a state and for Ukrainian economy and democracy. And only missiles couldn't solve Ukrainian problems. Ukraine now need more than missiles, tanks, RPGs. We need peace on our land. We need stop of the war. And I ask you, Mr. President, to turn your activity to find peaceful conclusions of this war conflict and not to continue the aggressive politics and to move to turn Ukraine to continue over this war.
We're going through Donetsk and seeing the more damaged areas, I presume, requiring body armor and protective gear and careful instincts.
В данной части экспозиции представлены осколки от американского снаряда кассетного типа калибром 155 мм. Данная маркировка, вот эта четверка, маркировка самого кассетного снаряда М864. То есть по вот этой четверочке мы понимаем, что это именно производство США.
When I was in the Army, what's happened in America is the weapons of war have translated into money for the corporations of America and make money off instruments of death and war and suffering. And I know them from my days as an officer. The terrible thing is the devastation of these weapons. They're so heavy, they splinter into 1,000 pieces, and even the smallest sliver moving at Mach 1 goes right through 10 people at the speed of light before they even know they're hit. And one little tiny piece that hits the artery or nicks the artery and the person's dead.
Firing at targets is not the only exercise here for Scott Bennett. Right now he's got an AK-47 that he needs to assemble, fire, and then disassemble. Take a look. Okay, let's get your emotions now while you're still fresh.
The only thing that would have made it better is for Americans to be fighting on the side of Russia, not against them, with them, as brothers for freedom and liberty. And I go see one day, hopefully it'll happen. But it's a great opportunity to see the strength of the Russian army, good training, good discipline, good instructors. And with these type of men, Russia will never lose. Hoorah!
And so just one more question. You certainly had some kind of expectation prior to arriving here. This was your first time, both in Moscow and here in Donbass. Now, those expectations versus reality, is it everything you expected it to be, or maybe even more?
Well, that's a good point. It's actually more, because I've known Russians, I've trained with Russians, I've lived with Russians and Ukrainians, and I've always found them to be an extraordinarily warm, gregarious people, and I'm astounded at their patience and their humility and kindness, especially after going through what America and Britain has put them through, and Poland and Germany. The fact that Russia and its people aren't furious at Americans, the fact that I'm not getting rocks thrown at me or spit in my face, is a testament to the humility and the beauty of the Russian people. So I think my expectations were even more overblown because of their patience and their trust, and I think it's a very good sign. And again, it's important for Americans to see it firsthand, because I can go back into the halls of Congress and anywhere I want, especially Donald Trump, who I know in my background as a political person. We need to take the good news back to Americans and say, we're on the wrong side of history, and we need to adapt, because this war and the military-industrial complex, it simply can't continue as it is.
Now, obviously, Scott Bennett is not about to pick up arms and go start fighting, but he surely felt what Russian new conscripts feel when they go through army training. But the most significant event of the day is probably that one more person's eyes were open to what's been happening here in Donbass for the last 10 years. Roman Kalser, MRT, Donetsk Republic.